Welcome back. News Radio 840 WHAS. Bob Sokoler, the Louisville Real Estate Show. Thank you, Barbara Corcoran, my friend and mentor. You can reach me, as Barbara says, anytime, 376-5483. Kevin Dissler is with us, Pitt and Frank Attorneys, 895-9900. Randy Rocky continues to stay with us from his car, as a matter of fact, at 645-0736. My son Greg does all our marketing, and again, me, Bob, here to help you anytime, day or night. So let's go to a variety of things. Let me just quickly tell you, we were going to touch on rents for single-family homes, largest gains in monthly rent. Kevin, what was the number? 9.5% increase?
9.5% increase.
In rents. Mm-hmm. That's enough to turn you sour pretty quickly. It's tough. It really is. Anybody who's renting. And I know trying to buy a house now is more difficult. Randy, would you say that in this time period where you're renting, to make sure your credit is as stellar as possible to get the best rates, and if not, to see some sort of credit counselor? Am I right?
That is correct. And there are a lot of ways you can boost your credit, and someone could call me on that, but you can do prepaid credit cards. I just did it with my daughter, the one we were just talking about, and, she's a junior in college and has like a 760 credit score, so I can get you there even if you don't have a job.
Randy pulled me out of the dumps when I moved back from New York. I had lots of credit card debt, lots of different things. I'll be honest. I had a 40 credit score. And if you saw my score now, it's above 800. And if you see where I live now, you'd say, okay, Randy got him there.
He got the deal done. Yeah. All right, let's move on. 10 super hot trends to stay away from. So we all love trends, but do you buy into these? Let's go around the horn as we go through these guys. Stainless steel appliances. Who has them? I do. Greg does. Kevin?
I do. Stainless steel.
Yeah. How about you, Randy?
Do you even know, Kevin? Have you ever touched your appliances?
No, it still has plastic on the oven, but other than that.
The open refrigerator door.
Randy, stainless steel?
I do for one reason, because my wife is the one who decides.
There you go. See,
Randy's
not touching his either.
So the negative to stainless steel, they show every mark every time. So if your life isn't 100% pristine, there's some new stainless steel that's got like a matte. It's got like a it's a little better. Wallpaper bathrooms. There's some who say the wallpaper is coming back. Maybe not. Wipeable, washable, designer vinyls are the way to go now. That's a big thing. Greg's pointing to his wife.
I can show you my guest bathroom. It's one of my favorite.
Oh, is that what it was? Okay. White living rooms, and many of us may have thought about white living rooms, but there is a problem. According to the experts, you wash them twice a year, and they're brand new. There's nothing better, but that at some point they turn dingy if you don't. So wine walls is another item to stay away from, where feature of a wall of wine in the kitchen will expose bottles to heat. So, these are and I have a friend who actually has a wine cellar in the basement. That's fine. But if you put the bottles of wine in the kitchen, they can heat up and they go bad.
Maybe they're not, sommeliers. They don't. They just want their wine in their kitchen while they're cooking.
Right there, yeah.
Grab it off the wall. Whatever.
Something I see a lot in homes: barn doors. Greg's got one.
Guilty. Well, what do you mean, like a sliding, like the slider?
Yeah, slider barn door. According to interior designers, at least some rustic touches like these have surged in homes of late, but they just don't perform well, so definitely skip them. Barn doors don't close off the room the way a swing door can. So I guess this may be a trend. Also, sisal rugs. If you have sisal rugs, natural fibers, minimally processed, made for renewable materials, but they're also scratchy underfoot and shed like the Dickens. Recessed lighting, the Dickens. That wasn't me. I'm reading this.
That's old school. Is that the text you're reading from?
When you've got tall ceilings and you put lights in, these recessed lights, one caution is that those recessed lights, if they bulbs blow, you have a tough time if they're very high getting to them. Here's a trick, by the way. Home Depot or Lowe's or big box stores have these yellow extension wands that have adapters on the end of them that allow you to change the lights, and it's very cheap to buy the
suction cup.
Pop them up. It's a suction cup. Animal skin rugs, stay away from. And hanging chairs. Give us a great porch swing for lazy afternoons every day of the week, but putting one in your living room is a trend that may not be something to think about. Their performance and safety, the swings fall apart, and it could mean problems for you. So those are some of the things that.
Swing in the living room.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of that either. But hey, you never know what's around the corner. All right, Randy, a lender had called a client who apparently listens to this show and asked for a preliminary closing disclosure weeks, if not a month, before the closing. Can you understand why? I guess this is on the other side. I'm not sure exactly what the tie is, but this was a question that came in. When are the preliminary disclosures actually created by a lender?
They are usually created after, you have a clear to close. But I mean, we could send out a preliminary closing disclosure. We can do that.
But that's based on a proposed closing time, right? Because if it changes.
Yes, and we can estimate it, but I don't see the reason to do that because we're usually pretty close on the numbers anyways. But if somebody wanted that, of course we would do it. But that's not a request that happens very often.
Not normal. Okay. Bob, not me, but another Bob, selling his home, has a security system that he owns. He owns it, Kevin. There's a monitoring contract with a national company for additional 17 months. And many sellers, by the way, who are listening to us right now may have a similar situation and question. He owns the equipment. If the house is for sale, the equipment is attached to the walls of his house. Can he take the equipment? Can he cancel the contract services if he leaves? Will the monitoring company charge you? And now, obviously, there are different policies.
This is so convoluted, though, because his understanding of owning the equipment is him now owning it from the contract that maybe was they gave you the product for the contract. So he's saying he owns it and it's attached. So now he wants to take it with him. But then there's going to be maybe a cancellation fee if he cancels that 17 months. And now does he own it if he doesn't run through his contract? So, Kevin, you take it from there, but it sounds like a mess.
Yeah, actually did a wonderful job. Well, it kind of gets down to, it's like, what was a contract provide with the company, and there's a lot of terms, and usually it's all geared to the benefit of the security company. And then you get to the point where it's a fixture, where if it's a fixture, it goes with the house unless your realtor specifically excludes it. Because although there's some really nice new high-tech systems that may not qualify as a fixture, but most cases, if they're hardwired in, it's going to be a fixture. So then it gets, who owns it? You own it. The buyer, the home owns it, or the security company. But first thing to do is look at the contract itself and see whether you have any right to the equipment. As far as terminating it, again, that all depends on the language of the contract itself. But the other thing you need to talk to your realtor about, if you're planning to do that, make sure it's specified in the contract. Otherwise, you may have a dispute with the buyer at the closing table.
Yeah, in fact, you can negotiate that out when you get a contract, is what I would say. If they give you an offer, you like the dollars, but you want to take the alarm system or anything else that is attached, even a light, because you have got some sentimental value with that light, counter it back in the original offer so that everyone's on the same page. You don't get to closing and the buyer is saying, hey, where's that security system that was on the wall or that light fixture? And now all of a sudden you're at the last minute, you got a problem.
And that's kind of the number one issue that comes up at closing is there's confusion about what the seller could take out of the house. And like you said, be clear about it, put it in writing.
Okay. Jamie has emailed in, Brandy, not happy with the interest rate she's getting on her loan after apparently she heard our show. She's got it with a well-known bank. She's already agreed to repairs, but no longer wants the house because of the interest rate and closing costs. So let's start with Randy. We'll go over to Kevin on that. So with regards, she can still shop the loan. Am I correct, Randy? Then possibly get a better deal, especially since rates have gone down. Correct?
Oh yes, and you will get a better rate in closing costs in our company. That's a fact. And I mean, Casey talks about that quite regularly. Greg's wife and. So call me. And yes, most banks are much higher. I mean, they just don't, they're not as aggressive on finding the best deals for their clients. They're in the deposit game, the credit card game, and they're not focused on customer service a lot of times, and also not on making sure they get the best deal to the client. And
we'll give out Randy's number in just a second. Kevin, let me throw it back over to you. What are the legal implications if she pulls out of her existing mortgage company? Does she have to notify?
She said she's already agreed to repairs, correct?
She's gone through the point of repairs, so it would have to be a quick close. But what are the ramifications legally, Kevin, that anyone who wants to back out or at least go to another mortgage company?
Yeah, there's a financing contingency in there that says that you can get financing on these terms or better. And then usually you have to follow that up with a commitment from Randy or a company like his. Then the problem is you have some people that decide to switch at the last minute, in which case you could be in breach of the contract. Again, if you were provided financing on terms better, equal to or better than the financing contingency, and you just decide you want to shop for 1/8 of a point, and because of that the closing is delayed, you could be in trouble for breach.
So, right, so like when you write into the contract, rate not to exceed 4.5, and if you get your rate back and it's 4.5 and it's at your cap, but you still want to shop around because you can get into the threes, you've already agreed to 4.5.
Well,
agreed to contract.
What I would suggest, though, is, and Kevin, steer me if I'm incorrect, let me know, is to put an addendum together that says to the seller and the seller's agent that and you'd have your buyer agent represent you doing this, that the buyer is requesting permission to switch loan officers to this bank with this interest rate and is told he will be able to close within this amount of time. And I presume if you have an addendum that's signed by the seller, Kevin, and everyone's on board, you're able to make that change without causing many problems.
Sure, that's correct. And the big concern being with how far along in the game are you doing? You got 45 days to close, and you switch lenders with 10 days left. So there's a period closing on or before, and there's usually a period of time to close. And again, if it's your choice as the buyer to make the change and it delays the closing, you get the seller's permission, and or you could be in breach if you do not. But the seller is probably going to want to make sure you can still hit the time frames, and you just have to do that quickly and work with the sellers.
And both Randy and Kevin, any problems with you hearing that a seller has called the loan officer on the other side to verify the ability of the buyer who has a pre-qualification or pre-approval letter to actually close the deal, that they've done the due diligence? Anything negative on that? I bring this up on every couple of shows because we see more and more sellers who want to talk to a loan officer and hear it from the loan officer that they've done this amount of work on this buyer and they feel within a range of this amount percentage that they're good to go. Any problems with that? Randy, I'll go to you quickly first.
I don't think so. And in fact, we're going to start doing more videos explaining, what we did for the client and all the above. Obviously, we're not going to give out income and things that we can't give out, but explaining, the buyer is qualified, ready to go, just to kind of reassure the listing agent that, hey, this buyer's good and ready to go.
And Kevin, that's where a mortgage lender walks the fine line. They can't give out personal information, but they can give them some basic feeling of how comfortable they are with that buyer proceeding forward and getting the loan closed. Am I right about that?
Correct. A comfort letter or a comfort email. Usually you want to hear from the source other than the buyer and the buyer's agent, although I think it's always a good idea to contact the borrower first and get permission to talk to the seller or the seller's representative. It's just good form.
Good points. We are out of time, folks. My thanks to Randy Rocky, Swan Financial, 645-0736. Also, Kevin Disler, Pitt and Frank Attorneys at 895-9900. My son, Greg, who does our marketing and photography and so much more. And you can reach me day or night, even right now after the show at 376-5483. Yes, I work weekends. Guys, thanks for being here. If you want to see what the sellers are saying about us, go to LouisvilleZillowTalk.com or LouisvilleSellersTalk.com. There's two separate, LouisvilleZillow.com and LouisvilleSellersTalk.com. Two great places to go to hear about us. Thanks again. We'll see you next Sunday right here on News Radio 840 WHAS.